Greetings and welcome to the Undivide Project Podcast Changemakers Edition, where we are highlighting and amplifying voices who are making real change in their communities, for the public, and in industry. And this afternoon, we are so excited to have Jacquelyn Rodriguez, the holistic salon business coach, with us to talk about clean living, healthy living, what clean beauty is, and how we can sort of reframe what we think is the beauty industry and the salon industry in this larger conversation we have about sustainability. Thank you so much for joining us, Jacquelyn.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be a part of this and, just raise this awareness around sustainability, clean and green beauty.
Well, there's so much that I want to talk to you about, everything from what we put on our hair to what we put on our face to our experience in the salon. But your own journey is super interesting. So I'm wondering if you could give us a little bit of background about how you came to be this kind of business coach and allow the audience just to get to know a little bit of your origin story.
Yes, I would love to. So where do I start? Because it has been a journey. Well, first off, I've been in the beauty industry for 24 years. I have been through everything, starting out a few decades ago, it really has been quite a journey. I knew that I always wanted to run my own business. And when I got to that point, I opened up my own salon about 12, almost 13 years ago now. And really, when I started in the industry, I was not aware of clean beauty or sustainability or anything like that. How that came about was really, I had kids. And it was literally a light bulb moment when I was in my bathroom cleaning, as we do, and the kids, these little toddlers, kept trying to come in to the bathroom. And I'm like, no, I don't want you to breathe this in. Go into another room. And for whatever reason, that moment, I had a light bulb moment of, if I don't want them breathing it in, maybe I shouldn't be breathing it in. Yes, exactly. So that moment, I went and I started researching, and it truly opened up this whole new world to me, because I was raised like most of us, where you use 409 or you just used whatever products were on the shelves and that they marketed to you. You didn't really think about what was in them, what things it could actually do to you, no matter, even if you were using bleach to clean and then you're coughing up a lung because you can't breathe. We didn't think about it because we thought, this is safe. They market it to us. Why would we do anything different? And that was just at home. So I switched everything over at home and I really started learning the difference. But then when I cleaned everything out of my house and I walked into the salon, I was actually having reactions at that point.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I didn't really put two and two together that after a long day at the salon, I would come home and I'd be, obviously tired. We worked really hard, but also this slight headache and just a little uneasiness, of a breath. And I was starting to get just dry spots on my hands and everything. And I noticed there was a big difference between when I was outside of the salon with all of my clean, sustainable products, and then when I was in. So that actually became a whole journey for me to start switching things over in the salon. And I just went from, it's been a 12-year process, but I went from zero to what I am now. And that's really how I started the salon and got it holistic and clean. And it's been a process.
And it's a very worthy process. And we're in the middle of a conversation about the health effects of some of these products. And it ranges from, the actress Fran Drescher has been in this a long time talking about what's in our makeup and in shampoos and other beauty products, similar to what you were talking about. Like there's just certain cleaning products that were on the shelf that our family just used and we didn't question it. And I think for a long time, the same thing was true of beauty products at the consumer level. And then we're learning, through lawsuits about hair straightening methods and all of the issues surrounding that and the health impacts. And what I'm finding in conversations, I think now amongst those of us with curly hair, we know that relaxers are bad. I've heard people say that, well, I'm going to switch from a relaxer to keratin. And I said, well, you're switching from lye to formaldehyde. So I don't know that that's the question. Um, but this doesn't have to be the way, and not necessarily those products, but for just about anything that we encounter in the salon, there's an alternative. So I want to talk about the salon experience, but also talk more about your process of changing over and coaching other salons to change over from these products that are harmful to people and to the environment to things that are more sustainable and, quite frankly, work better.
Well, and I'm so glad you brought that up because it goes back to that same thought, like we don't question what's being sold to us and, quite frankly, what's being marketed. Think about the things that are being marketed, like they're professional marketers. They know exactly what to say, how to say it, and we don't think that they would put things out that would harm us. But the reality is, it really is a pay-to-play kind of world we live in, right? And that's in so many different things. So where we start to actually make a big difference is just by questioning what we're using, right?
Okay.
Start looking at the ingredients. We don't have to know everything. We don't have to switch everything over overnight, but it is just question, is this the best option for me? Right? And that's what I did in the salon because there's not a ton of options to switch everything over. For relaxers and for like straightening products, to be honest, there's not another alternative that's going to be a healthier alternative. What we get to do is change the mindset around what is acceptable, right? Because, this is going to go down a whole nother rabbit hole, but it is the holistic outcome, right? When we're really looking at who are we and what do we want to represent. Right? So it's starting to change your mindset of like who you are and accepting every piece of who we are at a level that is loving and caring and kind. And yes, if you want to straighten your hair, okay, use a flat iron. There's other options, but looking at the ingredients and accepting that right now there's not an alternative. So, what choices do we have?
Right. And I don't think it's a rabbit hole. I think it's a lovely statement because some of that marketing is about standardizing what's beautiful and what's not. Yes. And that has all kinds of impacts on people.
Well, the beauty industry in general, if we look at what has been marketed and deemed beautiful, I would honestly say 90% of us don't fit into that mold. And 90% because it's unrealistic. We don't look like that. We're not celebrities. We don't have a team of people around us 24/7. Now we've got AI, so we can touch up whatever to look perfect. But what is perfect? And when you come into my salon, that is one of the biggest pieces we talk about. Like the first thing I noticed clients coming in and sitting in front of the mirror, the first thing they would do is go, oh, look at these wrinkles. I hate my hair. I look so tired. And I immediately stop that thought. I'm like, look, everything about you is perfect. Exactly how, do we have things that we don't love? Me included.
Absolutely.
But the fact is, I'm made this way. So how do we highlight the things that we do love about ourselves? How do we focus in on that? And when we are able to start shifting that perspective and that mindset, then we don't all of a sudden care so much about straightening our hair or going and getting perms or, changing everything. And mind you, this comes from a woman who's in the industry and have been around all of that talk, and like really we're looked at to showcase what is beautiful, what's not, what's in style, what's not. So we can have so many different beautiful perspectives, but it really does come to the mindset of what do you accept about yourself? And then what options do you have right now to be able to help you enhance what you love about yourself?
I love that. And I love that you use the term holistic in how you describe yourself and in your work. Because, as we're advancing conversations around human health and environmental health, there's a lot of, as we're struggling to find the words, we go from, some person might be talking about circular economy. Someone else may be using recycling. Someone else may be talking purely about regulation. Someone else using the term clean beauty. But it really is a holistic approach. And even, as I'm reading about you and looking at some of, reflecting on our prior interview that we did for print, you even take that into how the salon experience is curated. You started touching on it about your client conversation, but I want to hear more about how you curate the salon experience to have this holistic approach.
Yeah, the holistic approach to me is it's looking at someone, whether it's someone, a business, a process, a product, at the point of view, like from high up. What are all the different steps and what values and missions stand behind them, right? So when I talk about a holistic, like I really do mean we take care of your hair, we take care of beauty, but we're here for your mind and your soul and your being, who you actually are. And that's that first step when people come into the salon of like not putting themselves down. That's a big step for them. And for us to just lovingly say, look, well, I see this in you. I hear you. I see you as the person that you are, not the celebrity, not this person that everybody's trying to be. And then taking them from that step to guide them to just accepting who they are, and then giving them a style that fits them truly, fits their lifestyle, fits who they are, and makes them feel confident. So when you're going through that process, it can be hard for some people, but that's why I believe in being trained in like a lot of energy healing, and I'm a neuro coach as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces behind it, but the energy of the salon is huge too. When you come in and you feel safe and you feel seen and you feel heard, you can start to put down the walls and see yourself in a different light.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of this is about a mental transition.
Yes.
And, people may think, for those who are listening, are like, wait a minute, I thought this was a climate change podcast. It's about climate action. But the shift is part of it. And some of it is, the first step is self-acceptance and one's place in the world. And before you have to do that, before you can even make that logical leap to, well, then how do I have a voice across these other topics, right? How do I get the wherewithal to ask for accountability and transparency and to try to move the needle on this particular topic that we're talking about? So, to bring that, full circle for people who are listening, is that if you take a step back and say, like, have I accepted and gotten comfortable in my own positionality? Now am I ready to go and advocate for some changes or to design my own project or program? And so that's an important step. And what you're offering people is, when they come through this experience, you don't know, maybe you get to see who they're going to be on the other side of it, but it definitely gives you an opportunity to see people transform. And hopefully, you pull inspiration from that, because I know that you're involved in advocacy work, and that inspires you to even take that next step and to start advocating for some things.
It really is all about the mindset and that awareness, because it is accepting yourself, but it's shifting the social norms that we see, whether it is about beauty or whether it is about products that we just accept, like we were talking about in the beginning, or about climate change. Like, are we just accepting and going with the society norm of people saying everything is okay? Or are we going to start looking? And it's just awareness, right? It's being aware that there's options. You can be who you are and still be absolutely perfect. You can start looking at ingredients, and it's okay to make a change. And it's okay to start standing up and advocating for things that you believe in. It's all about the awareness. So when I became aware of all these things, that's really what set the tone. And I'm not perfect in it. I still am not perfect. And I've been doing it for about, a decade, 12 years. And there's so much that I'm learning. It's taking that one little step and that mind shift of, okay, this is okay for me to start questioning things, to be aware about things and standing up for what I believe in. And like you said, it might be climate change, it might be clean ingredients, or maybe it's all about the packaging or recycling. There's so many layers into clean, green, and sustainable beauty that, we'd have to have like a 5-hour podcast to go into each one. But it's being aware of like what part of that is important to you, and knowing that there is change coming, and there's so many people out there that are starting to stand up for the things that they are very passionate about. And that's why I got into the coaching, because I saw that I was able to build this beautiful salon that people were gravitating towards because it resonated with who they were. And it just set a different tone to what the beauty industry was offering at the time, and even now. So when I started that, I saw that it was something that was not only capable, like we can do it. Yes, there's some challenges, there's some up and down, but if you tell me any business, like there's going to be ups and downs. And
yes,
being able to get into that, I saw that my bigger purpose was to start raising the awareness for the beauty industry leaders, because this is where we're going to see change when we start with consumers. And then when we get into these smaller salons, the leaders of these salons who are then educating other hairstylists, because consumers, they depend on us, and they rely, like they trust us to tell them what to use, what's new, what's in style. And when we start giving them different options, cleaner, greener, and sustainable options, all of a sudden they start wanting to demand it. And then as leaders, we can demand it. And that's going to be the bigger change, where we can actually start seeing big name companies change for the better because we're demanding it, and we're not going to just settle anymore.
Right. I love all of that. And there's a couple of things I want to unpack. And yes, I know we could have a 5-hour podcast to talk about what it means to be clean, what it means to be green, what it means to be sustainable. But help us with some of those terms, because there's greenwashing across every industry. And so what should those terms mean?
Yeah. So clean beauty means it's clean ingredients. You're looking at ingredients that are not harmful to you. And that's sulfate free, paraben free, those types of things. That's where you can look at the ingredient and know that it's not going to be causing you harm down the road. Clean or green beauty is more naturally derived ingredients. So you're looking at like organic, clean, and actual lavender that's in the product, not a false lavender or a synthetic lavender, right? So that's the difference between the clean and the green. Then the sustainability is really going to be that holistic view. It's looking at green ingredients, it's looking at clean ingredients, and it is also looking at how does it go from manufacture to after the people use it. So like, how does it recycle? How does it impact the earth and everything? So you're looking at fair trade. How are the people who are putting together the product treated? How, yeah, that's, I know there's so much to unpack there as well, but it's the holistic view of from the time the ingredient, I mean, the product or service or business is started, what are all the implications until the very end? So that's the difference between the three.
Okay. Yes. And thank you for that. And as I've been talking to different people, I've been learning, if you have the ability to do so, really understanding that supply chain, what happens from the lab until it makes its way onto your favorite beauty store or salon shelf is just as important as looking at the ingredients list. Because how are people treated? What kind of facility are they working in? All of those things play a role. And, if you use all organic ingredients, but your manufacturing is done in an overburdened community in the global South, and people are not being paid a living wage, that's a different kind of toxicity, right? And we don't want to be involved in that.
Exactly. And that is why I focus on holistic. So everything in my salon, every product we use, I look at what are their bigger missions and values? Like, how are they treating their people? Is it packaged? How is it shipped? How are they giving back? There's a whole lot to break down in that. But if you just become aware that there is all of that happening behind the scenes and that it is more than just what you're doing in your business, that makes a huge impact, because then you can start aligning what's important to you with the people the products or anything, right? So anyone who is involved in my business at all, I have looked and made sure that they stand for the same things that I do. So there's not conflict, and that they are giving back to the community and looking, maybe I'm not perfect right now, but I have a 5-year plan and I have incentives that I'm working throughout these years to get better, to improve. And that's transparency. That's huge.
Yeah. And that's having a plan, because we were talking about perfection earlier and throughout this, is like, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to start trying. And there is a huge part of this. It is aligning values with the things that we use and that we purchase. And in a separate conversation, we're talking about the difference between fashion and style.
Oh, yeah.
And the one might infer to what was being marketed to us and what we're told to do. And the other one, from the way it emerged in this discussion process, is how we engage with the world. And that could be anything from our clothing and the choices that we make with it and how that aligns with our values, to things like hair and makeup and beauty, and to larger purchases like cars and homes. And if you have a business, the kinds of, folks that you're contracting with in your business. And so there is, I think a room, what I'm thinking about is values and style in this conversation we're having about taking care of people and planet.
It does involve all of those things, and being a recovering perfectionist myself. Yeah. And I still, to this day, have certain things where I really have to snap out of it and be like, no, this doesn't have to be done perfectly, but I know that I'm making the right steps. And that's why I said earlier, it's all about just taking the one tiny steps and seeing what is important to you at this moment. What is the most important? And you tackle that. That's the first step of really, like, if you want to know how to like start on this whole journey, it's finding the one thing that's most important to you and looking at how can you change that in your business, your life, your, whatever it is that you have going on. Whether you have a business or you're in a corporation or you're a stay-at-home mom or a dad, like, it's just finding out what's the most important to you and starting to take steps on that and building out a plan. So, my salon, my personal, my coaching, I have plans built out for each one of how I want to shift them, whether it is like the next 6 months or the next 5 years.
I love that you have 6-month and 5-year plans. And, about taking this first step. And we have a couple of minutes, and there's just, highlighting that, take the first tiny step. Because I'm sure as people are listening to you and are interested in how, you're doing this design and more about the coaching, what advice would you give someone like who's struggling to take that first step, who even after this conversation that we've had still might have, be a little bit overwhelmed? Like, how do I make this first step in my business, in my personal life, towards a more holistic approach?
The first thing, like if you are struggling, just brain dump everything that's on you that you're thinking about that may be important, right? Because I had that problem of like, well, these 5 things are important and they must be done right now. I still had that problem.
All at one time.
Yeah, and they were supposed to be done yesterday, okay? So take and brain dump that and see like what parts you're able to take care of, and honestly, find help. Find support, find a community. When you are in a community, then all of a sudden, like, it just feels easier. You don't feel so alone. And there's this outside, like, responsibility of, okay, I can put this out there and receive support on the pieces that I just don't know how to take care of myself. So find that community. And that's why I started coaching, is to build a community and to have a platform to be able to support others on that journey.
I love that. Brain dump, find community, create community. If people want to reach you or learn how to interact with you, where would you tell them to go?
My favorite place is Instagram. Like, you can DM me. I'm actually the person on the other end answering and talking and having conversation. So you can always find me on Instagram. And I actually also am launching my own podcast so that I have all this education out there. So you'll be able to find me on YouTube and all your favorite podcast platforms for the... Let me remember the name of my podcast.
I was going to say, what's the title so that we can make sure that we have it in our feed?
The Salon Owners Holistic Blueprint Podcast.
I like that. The Salon Owners Holistic Blueprint Podcast.
Yes.
Coming soon to Google and all the places where you like to listen to podcasts.
Yes.
Jacquelyn, thank you so much for joining us. I am looking forward to following your work and listening to your podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I love this conversation and everything that you are doing as well.
I appreciate that. And to my dear audience and our wonderful friends at Authority Magazine who helped us all bring this together, our sincere gratitude. This has been the Undivide Project Podcast Changemakers Edition. And be sure to tune in for our next episode where we're going to examine this concept of fast fashion.